Okay, so now that we have all of our trees laid down and ready to be brought to the landing, it's time to choose what kind of skidder we want to use. So now, predominantly, there are three types of skidders that are available. We have a line skidder, which is a skidder that has a cable line on the back. We have a clam bunk skidder, which is a skidder that has an open clam on the back that's faced upwards. And then we have a grapple skidder, which is a skidder with a clam that dangles and hangs downwards. We also have this variation of the clam bunk, which is attached to the forwarder. This one is also the same type of clam bunk with the claw facing up. So for each different type, it's up to you what you want to use. If you're brand new to skidding and you don't quite understand it yet, perhaps the winch version would be the easiest one. The cable skidder, winch skidder, whatever you want to call it. So get inside this guy, start it up. Now the skidders have an articulating point in the middle, so they turn kind of on a weird middle angle as opposed to turning them left and right like a car. So the purpose of the skidder is to bring the bunched wood that we knocked down, these piles, from here all the way back and line it up at the landing. So that way we save the trip of trying to go out and get the wood. So in the cable skidder, normally you want to do is you want to actually back up in reverse towards the pile you want, or to make sure that you're turned around facing it once you get out there. So from this pile, all you have to do is get out of your machine, walk up to the logs. You'll see a little icon appear for a hand, and then hit B as in Bravo on your keyboard. And what will happen is it'll create a line from that log to the back of the skidder. So now that piece of wood is going to move with the skidder. Now, this winch script and the whole thing was built by a gentleman named 50 Kada. He was the modder who allowed me to put this on the skidders. So big shout out and thanks to him for allowing us to use this script and use it on the skidders to make them a lot easier for people. So from this, you want to usually hook your winch up to the middle log. So usually find from the outside edges, select the middle log. And you want to put it about a quarter up the log, so about there. That's a good chunk of range there. And then you can just go to the following logs around it, hit B again on each one of them to select those logs. And there you go. Those are all hooked up. So now once you're inside the machine, if you hit B on your keyboard, it'll turn the winch on and off. So if you hit Z while you're working, there's a little control panel to tell you the controls as well. You can actually winch those logs up and bring them closer to the skidder if you want. Or you can just leave them dangling if you need to move around. So for this, you can pull it up, bring it up right alongside this stuff. So I'm going to actually just kind of put it out here because I'm going to thread that later. Shift B disconnects it. And again, the controls you can see in the top left-hand corner. And if you hit F1, if you're missing that menu, it'll make them pop up. So basically the purpose is to bring the wood from where we dropped it over to the landing so that it's in a nice, easy spot to access. So we already have this pile that's started here. We just brought that pile up to line it up next to it. And that's basically the purpose of the skidder, is to bring it from out there into here. So now I'm just going to kind of show you guys the different versions. So that was the cable skidder. Definitely the easiest skidder out of all of the other ones to use. Simply because you don't have much, you don't have to worry about your piles as much. If this one's off here and that one's off there, you can actually hook to any log anywhere pretty much on the map. It gives you a long range of cable to play with for pulling them. And as you experiment with it, you guys will figure out what works best for you. But for new people and beginners who have never played, I usually recommend the cable skidder. It's very easy to haul logs and keep it all lined up. The next one I'm going to look at is the Clam Bunk. So there's two variations of the Clam Bunk. One is this giant tiger cat version with a huge grapple on the back here. And the other one is the Timber Pro, which has got kind of a smaller sized grapple, but it is kind of self-sufficient. So for this machine, for the Tiger Cat version, you actually have to have another machine working with you who can load the logs onto the trailer. Now, I'm just using a script that allows me to pick up all the heavy weights in the game. So normally you can't pick up a full tree, but I'm going to do it anyway. So we're going to bring this over here. So normally what you would do is you'd have a loader, another machine, a loader, some kind of button top, or perhaps a clam machine with a dangle. And what you'd do is you'd actually drop these logs directly into that grapple, if I can do this. Again, this works a lot better with a loader, but I'm just kind of demonstrating. And what you could do is you can actually drop a whole pile of logs in there. I'm just going to hop up here. and fill that whole grapple. Now, from inside the skidder, you have the ability to control the closing. So you can close up on those, and then you can also hit L to lock that down to the log so that it stays there. So yeah, and then once you actually get, you can get a bundle of, 50, 60 logs in there, or, maybe that's a lot, but as many as you want in there, and then basically all you have to do is just drive away with the pile, bring it to whatever the location is you want to drop it. Generally, I think you can just unlock it and drive away. I'm not sure if that works on this one or not. But I think you can just drive away and they'll slide off, yeah, like that. And that's more of a swampy kind of logging. I don't know if you guys ever watched the movie or the show Swamp Loggers. They use a lot of Clam Bunk skidders, but you do need another loader that can grab them and then pile them onto the back of the machine. So if you guys want to play with that, you can experiment. I always recommend, go watch real life Clam Bunk skidding. Go watch real life skidders to kind of get an idea of what their purpose is. But hopefully we can get a good reference here. So again, this is the Clam Bunk here. So this is another variation of the Clam Bunk. This one is self-sufficient, so you don't need another loader to be working with you because it actually has a boom arm on it with a claw. Now again, this is an attachable claw, so you can put whatever attachment you want on this one. I just picked this particular one, but these are all detachable. You can put on, whichever claw kind of suits your fancy there. So what we're going to do, and again, this one you have the ability to kind of drive around with it. It's a little more efficient because you have access to the cab. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a quick trek out here. Actually, we're going to readjust this pile and I'm going to move it over. So basically the purpose of this one, and I'm going to switch camera angle so we can see it a little better. So we have this claw on here. We also have control of that secondary claw, and it has a locking strap as well. It's really important to use locking straps on skidders because it keeps them from sliding out of the grapple when you're driving. The physics are not 100% perfect in this game, so there's lots of chance that they'll slip out. So what we're going to do, if I can learn how to operate here. So we're going to grab this cluster of logs right here with the claw, and then we're just going to drag it right over into the grapple here. And you want to bring it up so it's almost about, wherever you're comfortable. As long as there's enough there to grab, you're just fine. There we go. And we're going to grab this little bundle here. Slide that into the grapple as well. So once you get them kind of there, you can close up to the point where you're not quite crushing them, but they got a half-decent grip there. And then hit L to lock them into the grapple on the back. So now you have full control of dragging these logs around to wherever it is you may want to take them. In this case, I'm going to just shimmy them over this way a little bit. And we're going to try to kind of line them up with this other deck so that we have a nice little tightly closed deck here. So even about there. And again, you could drive as far as you need to go to bring them. It's just another way to skid. So now what we're going to do is we're going to unload these by grabbing them off the top here. And then we can just kind of drop them into this pile. Throw them in there. Oops, let's turn our locking straps off so we don't do that. There we go, beauty. And then just pile them up over here. And again, the nicer you keep your deck lined up here, the better it's going to be for the next step, which will be processing. So if these logs are kind of falling apart and kind of acting weird, try to straighten them out if you can. It's always good to try to keep a nice even pile. Makes life a lot easier for everybody. And then you're ready, you can just drive this guy right back out, grab your next pile. But I'm not actually going to use this for the next one because I think we only got one more pile out here. So I'm going to show you the Grapple Skidder. So we're just going to park this guy over in the toolies here. There we go, beauty. Oops. All right. Okay, so let's leave this guy here. Turn the lights off too, be all pro about it. So the next one we're going to have is the Grapple Skidder. Now, the Grapple Skidder is a self-sufficient little guy as well. It's got this big, nasty grapple on the back that can grab huge grabs and kind of crawl away with them. So again, same difference. You want to drive out to the location you want. So we're going to go out to that nice little pile that we made. And this kind of plays into what I was explaining in the last tutorial about why you want to keep your bunches nice and tight so that the logs aren't laying all over the place. Now, if you're using the cable skidder, it's a lot easier because you have a lot more range to play with. But this only has such a sized grapple. It does open quite wide, so it gives you a pretty good range. I'm just going to switch to this view. But you can see now why we wanted to make sure these piles were kind of bunched together. because we only have the width of this grapple to grab these logs and move it. Otherwise, you're backing up and going forward and you're trying to move logs. So if you're a good feller buncher operator, he'll leave nice piles like this, so the skidder can just come along really nice and easy. You want to back up to the pile. You also have free rotation of this head, so if you want to turn it left or right, you can do that. So go in. You want to grip up on them, not so you're crushing them. Just bring them to about like here, and I think that would actually be probably lots. And then just hit L on your keyboard to lock them. Usually they kind of dip down a little bit. That's how you know you got them locked in there. And now that's on there. It's not going anywhere. So now you can track around the world, go wherever you want. You also have the ability to freely rotate that while it's locked. I usually recommend not rotating it too much while it's locked, but you guys can experiment and see what works best for you. I usually try to bring it in as close, my tire pretty much alongside those other logs, so I can bring it in as close as possible. And if you got to, you can back up into your pile, rotate it. So I'm going to go to this view. So as I'm backing up, I'm actually rotating the head a little bit. And then we can go like this and drop them in there. Now, unfortunately, in real life, a lot of the skidder heads actually turn left and right freely using something called an orbit motor. But unfortunately, I'm not able to reproduce that in this game just because the complexities of the orbit motor. So you do have a little bit of give side to side, but you have to be the one to control it if you want it to turn certain ways while you're operating. So yeah, that basically describes how the skidder works, and you can do this at whatever angle. These skidders are very efficient. They can go up very steep inclines with huge grabs of wood. So just make sure when you're bunching, you leave nice piles so the skidder can come along and grab them. If you have a buncher operator who's inexperienced and the trees are kind of, that far apart, I would recommend using the cable skidder so that you can get those longer ranges without having to be super accurate. But yeah, that basically covers skidding. Again, the purpose of a skidder is just getting the wood from where you dropped it in the bush to a nice pile in the landing so that it's ready for processing. All right, guys, we'll catch you in the next one. Thanks.